Ready? Assalamu alaikum everyone. Jazakallah khairan everyone for coming out, and we're sorry for the slight delay. We're going to get started soon, inshallah. So today's topic is about prophetic friendships, and we have our beloved brother Shaykh Idris Nawaz coming back to talk to us about this topic. But before we get started, we have like a couple of announcements that we want to share. So the first one is just about who we are at Mass Queens. So we're part of the non-profit organization Muslim American Society of New York. So we're one of the sub-chapters. There are other sub-chapters in Brooklyn and the Bronx and Staten Island, etc. And our mission is to simply nurture people and inspire change. Another announcement that we have is about our recent partnership with Impairs. So for Mass Queens members, if you use the code MASSQ25, you will get your first month for free. And in August, we also have a lot of events coming up, so it's going to be a packed month, inshallah. Next week's halaqah on Friday is going to be led by Mufti Abdul Wahid, who is the co-founder of Miftah Institute. So our next halaqah is going to be by him, inshallah. Our next revive, so about a month from now, is going to be on the topic of At the Gates of Jannah with Shaykh Shukri. Ammar Shukri and Sanjay Suhaib. Just a little bit about Shaykh Idris Nawaz. He's our faculty member at Miftah Institute, and he teaches classes online and in Chicago and Texas as well. He's a PhD candidate at the International Islamic University of Malaysia, and he has a master's of Hadith as well. So, inshallah, thank you so much for coming and look forward to it.
Am I supposed to use this? Was I supposed to sit like this and talk to you guys?
Use the other one.
Use the other one? Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. نحمد الله ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد. It's good to see you all again. MashaAllah. I like what you guys did with the place. I know the brothers are super lazy, so all the credit goes to the sisters, mashallah. You guys did a good job. I don't know whose dupatta you guys used. Some sisters villa hijab was just for this. But mashallah, is this live, by the way?
Yeah.
This is live on what platform?
Everywhere.
Everywhere? Oh, I can't be unfiltered. Hey, that's fine. That's fine. I'll try to control myself. If I tell you to turn off the light, then no. Alright. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah wa salli ala rasulih al-Kareem amma ba'd. Inshallah, as we do with every lecture that I try to do, I'll recite a couple of verses, inshallah, that have to do with the subject, and then inshallah we'll get on with our lecture in any time. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الناس إنا خلقناكم من ولما يدخل الإيمان في قلوبكم وإن تطيعوا الله ورسوله لا يلدكم من أعمالكم شيئا إن الله غفور رحيم إنما المؤمنون الذين آمنوا بالله ورسوله ثم لم يرتابوا وجاهدوا بأموالهم وأنفسهم في سبيل الله أولئك هم الصادقون قل أتعلمون الله بدينكم والله يعلم ما في السماوات وما في الأرض والله بكل شيء عليم يمنون عليك أن أسلموا قل لا تمنوا علي إسلامكم بل الله يمن عليكم أن هداكم للإيمان بل الله يمن عليكم أن هداكم للإيمان إن كنتم صادقين إن الله يعلم غيب السماوات والأرض والله بصير بما تعملون صدق الله العظيم نحمد الله ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد One of the biggest problems that we find in the Muslim community is that we see I don't want to make it too direct, but we'll keep it like that. We're very lonely people as Muslims. Like, we're just loners. And when we have relationships and friendships with other people, in the Muslim community in America, you'll find two extremes. Either you have people who don't interact, they're very introverted, and that's completely fine, but they just don't have friends. And they say and they think that this is for the better, because they try to interact with people, they try to make friends, but nobody just vibes with them. And so what will end up happening is you have people who are just by themselves, to themselves, very lonely people, they don't have friends. You also have the other extreme. You have people who are genuinely good people. And when I mean good people, it's not like you're like a wali of Allah, like you're a friend of Allah. That's not what it means to be a good person. A good person is the very fact that you're here on a Saturday when you could be doing so many other things in life. That's the fact that you're a good person. But what ends up happening is that us as, we can say, quote-unquote good people, and everybody's good by the way, but for us specifically, we end up having bad friendships, people that not just spiritually pull us down, but also physically pull us down, mentally pull us down. And it's just a super toxic environment that if you either if you don't have the opportunity to leave, you end up getting struck into it. And not only does your spiritual health decline, but your mental health also declines. And that's the environment that we live in. And so the reason why I'm saying this is naturally what I like to do with my talks is I like to keep it a little lighthearted, entertaining. We say a lot of stories and jokes and stuff. But as a part of my PhD, when we did research and we basically surveyed over 1,000 Muslim American students that are studying in American universities. And we had this huge survey asking them all these questions about Islam and faith and campus and family and background and mental health and a bunch of things. And our purpose behind this research was, we just want to see what Muslims are going through in America. Oftentimes people like me who come up and talk to you all, we are youth, so we know what happens, but we don't know what actually happens with Muslim youth. And we conducted this research for Muslim, for Muslim chaplains, for youth directors, for anybody that wants to help themselves and help other Muslims in America, onto just like, what are we going through? What are we experiencing? And one of the biggest problems that I've seen is that, number one, we have like a huge marriage crisis. Nobody knows what love is, nobody knows what love isn't. And I'm not going to talk about that, because that's a whole other discussion. Maybe you can get somebody who's married. My teacher would always say, he's like, Idris, even if you become a alim, never talk about two things until you have them. Never talk about marriage until you're married, and never talk about raising children if you don't have children. Because, that's right, Shaykh? 100%. The reason is because these two areas of Islam and these two areas of life, it's not just about the knowledge that you have, but it's also about life experience. And one of the biggest problems, I'm going on a tangent here, but I think everybody has to know. And by no means do I, this is live, right? It's okay, sir. Okay. You guys have like 3 followers anyway, so it's alright. I'm joking. Wallahi, you guys don't know, you guys have, subhanAllah, the most famous guy in the room who you guys take for granted. SubhanAllah, I was praying sunnahs when I came into the masjid, alright? And mashallah, these brothers here, they don't know how to respect people who are praying, and so they were screaming. Shaykh Ashraf, mashallah, who runs the place and who's always doing your tarbiyah by watching you guys on the cameras, he has over like, how many TikTok followers?
100,000.
Over 100,000 TikTok followers. I was like, subhanAllah, why doesn't he advocate for masculines? Like, you guys can get some club from him, mashallah. But subhanAllah, you guys have gems, and you guys call people like me, like he should be up here, mashallah. But anyways, what was I talking about? Yes. Oftentimes, and this is by no means trying to categorize anybody or stereotype anybody, but for us Muslim youth, we tend to take advice from people who are not well accomplished or successful in their fields. So specifically for marriage, us as people who counsel youth, and also amongst my imam friends, we had this issue of Muslim youth taking marriage advice from people who are divorced. Okay? There's nothing wrong with divorced people. But what ends up happening is that when a person who's divorced, right, they give advice to people who didn't go through what they went through. They knowingly and unknowingly dump their trauma on people who never went through what they went through. Do you understand what I mean? So in Dallas, we had this huge problem of Muslim brothers who were coming confused to imams because they were taking marriage advice from a divorced man who was dumping all of the trauma that he went through in his marriage onto them. And he was saying like, you know, females are like this and like that, and you should treat them like objects and confine them to this and do this. And we're like, subhanAllah, where are you getting this information from? And we're finding out that he, like the person who's coming to us with these problems, is taking advice from a person who doesn't have a good marriage. And the same applied to sisters, right? Remember, Islam is always balanced. We have this gender game. There's no such thing as a gender game in Islam. One of the biggest problems amongst Muslim youth is that we have this thing of like, men are the problem and women are the problem. Brothers and sisters, Allah says in the Quran, وَالْمُؤْمِنُونَ وَالْمُؤْمِنَاتِ بَعْضُهُمْ أَوْلِيَاءُ بَعْضٍ. Believing men and believing women are allies of each other. There's no such thing as the men do their own thing, the women do their own thing. The implication for this is this: if you are doing something wrong, all right, for the Muslim men, if you're doing something wrong, and a Muslim sister comes and gives you advice, you don't look down upon that person just because for example, they're not going through what you went through. And so you say, oh, I'm not going to take advice from somebody who's not a man, who doesn't know my problems. Assess the problem. If that is a problem, then you should take advice from even that person. The same thing applies to sisters as well. We have this gender game, and we don't realize that the gender game between men and women is an actual intentional thing that has been started by corporations and people who actually take advantage through capitalization, through neoliberalization, of people going against each other. Remember, if there is disunity, there is always somebody who's benefiting from it. If there is clashing, there's always somebody who's benefiting from it. Now, we can get into that, but that's a whole other topic. Where did this come from? Yeah, so I'm not going to talk about marriage. That's where it all came from. So that's one thing, remember, my dear brothers and sisters, never take advice from somebody about something that isn't successful in it. This is in regards to marriage, this is in regards to raising children. I mean, we do this with our careers. You're not going to come up to me, like a Maulana, and ask, oh, how do I prepare for my MCAT? I'm just going to say, make dua, that's it, TDA. You don't need to study. You don't take advice from me. You don't go up to an engineer and ask him about med school advice. You don't go to a med school student and ask him about engineering advice. That doesn't make sense. The same thing applies for these issues as well. And if we realize this, a huge chunk of the problems that we have will be solved. And I always tell people, don't take fatwas, don't take advice from social media. And they always say, no, we'll take advice. We're looking up to this Muslim couple on Instagram, and it's all butterfly and what's the phrase? It's butterflies and roses. Rainbow. What is it? Rainbows and? Yeah, sorry. Rainbows and butterflies. They was like, oh, it's all rainbows and butterflies, and they're doing so well with their marriage. I'm going to take advice from them. Look, I always say this. And I always give a planes examples instead of planes. I always tell people, a plane crash, okay? A plane crash is what's going to go on the news. But what will not go on the news is if a plane landed safely. I'm going to say that again. A plane crash will always go on the news. But a plane that landed safely will never be on the news. People who actually have good marriages know better than to upload their marriages on the internet. That's what causes hasad, that's what causes evil eye, that's what causes black magic. All of us Desi people with aunties sitting in, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, even Morocco, Egypt, everywhere, we know what happens, right? Somebody stole somebody else's land and now the auntie or the uncle is doing jadoo and everybody else, oh, subhanAllah. Okay, that's one thing. Another thing, there's too many tangents, but sometimes we overemphasize black magic. So, we'll get this with aunties and uncles that come. They're like, Beta, Idris! I'm like, what's up? They're like, I have this huge problem. My son is not speaking to me. And I was like, okay, why do you think that's there? He's like, and the guy says, 10 years ago, I took some land from my brother. I think his wife and him, they're doing black magic on my son. I was like, subhanAllah, nowadays, us as Muslims, we use the black magic and evil eye problem for our own problems. I was like, brother, you're the problem. It's like you're trying to, the problem is you, and then you're trying to project it on something else. Where did that come from? SubhanAllah. These are all lessons, by the way. I always tell people, the tangents of speakers, of students of knowledge, of scholars, is where you get the real gems. As much as we say, when we spend time with scholars, the true benefits that we get are not in the lecture, but after, when we're at the coffee shop. That's when all the unfiltered conversations come. So take advantage of this. So don't look at it as something bad, right? I'm going to just say it, it's intentional. So that's the thing. Don't take fatwas, don't take marriage advice, don't take these types of things from people online. Go to trusted people who you know can assess your needs, who you know are sincere, who you know are not going to dump their sectarianism when it comes to giving fatwas, who are not going to dump their trauma when it comes to marriages. Go to the right people. If we do this, subhanAllah, a bunch of our problems will be solved. I'm happy you guys gave me more than an hour because, subhanAllah, this is just on the tangent. But when we come back to friendship, right? What I'm going to do is, I actually realize that this is a huge problem. So this lecture is going to be more so of kind of like a class. We're actually going to go through what causes bad friendships, what do we look for in a friend, how do we choose friends, can we be friends with the opposite gender, can we be friends with non-Muslims. These are things, inshallah, that we're going to talk about. I recommend all of you to take notes. I really do, mashallah. I always see the sisters taking notes. I never see the brothers taking notes. I've realized that, mashallah, you guys have the memory of Imam Bukhari, because nobody takes notes. But inshallah, maybe if I test you guys, right, we'll see if you guys have the notes in your mind, inshallah. Anyways, take notes, inshallah, and hopefully, inshallah, this will benefit us both with Allah. There will also be a Q&A in the end. Do we have a Slido, by the way, or are we planning to just raise the hands? Inshallah, any questions you have, write them down, and inshallah, we'll talk about it in the night ta'ala. Number one, why don't we have lasting friendships? I've realized that there are two problems. Okay? Why we don't have lasting friendships? There are two major problems. Number one, we base our friendships on worldly matters. Okay? Okay, look at this. If you want something to last, base it upon something that will always remain there. If you base your friendship on gossip, then when the gossip, even if gossip is okay, when the gossip is not there, you will lose that friendship. If you base your friendship on sports, when sports is not there, you'll lose substance in that relationship. And what ends up happening is, these temporary things that we usually build our friendships upon, they're temporary, they're going to fall away. And what ends up happening is, because when they fall, and that was the core of your relationship with anybody, what ends up happening is your relationship and your friendship falls. So the main thing is that we base our friendships on other than the faith of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And what that does is, and I always tell people, this is in regards to friendships, this is in regards to having relationships before marriage, this is in regards to all sorts of these types of relationships. Any relationship that starts with the disobedience of Allah will never end up right. I'm going to say that again. Any relationship that starts out with the disobedience of Allah, do you think that the one who is actually responsible for putting barakah in that relationship, he will actually give you that? When you're disobeying him in the first place? It never ends up happening. I always tell this to people who, guys and girls, they're texting. And then I tell the guy, why are you texting this girl? What's the benefit? And this is the ultimate scapegoat response. What is it?
We're going to get married.
We're going to get married. I'm texting her for marriage. Brother, you're 14 years old. What do you mean I'm texting her for marriage? Alright? This is a huge problem. I say, okay, if you want to get married, and you think this is the one, alright? You have to do it the right way. Because ultimately, if it's not done in the right way, remember, the one who puts barakah in relationships is Allah. If you started out a relationship of marriage, you started out a relationship of friendship, and it's not built upon the obedience of Allah, the one who is going to give you substance in that relationship will easily take it away from you, because He is Allah. So remember that, inshallah. That's number one. Number two, okay? And this is sometimes okay, sometimes we have friendships where it's not built upon just one thing. It's built upon everything. I have my bestie, and we talk about everything together, right? We talk about philosophy, we talk about Islam, we talk about, we do gossip, we talk about sports, we talk about MMA, UFC, we talk about cars, we talk about everything. This is like a well-rounded friend. So why is it still bad if it's not based upon the obedience of Allah? This is an issue, and this is actually the main issue. Nowadays, if you look at society today, the American society tries to, as much as it can, pull relationships away from each other. You'll see on social media this trend of self-love. Always love yourself. Always prefer yourself. If somebody is not benefiting you, then that person is against you. Always, like under no condition, don't care about people. Only focus on your own happiness. Only focus on what you want in life. Don't care about what other people have to say. Isn't that something that you see on social media a lot? Okay, first of all, right, we have to look at it from both sides. They're actually coming from a proper place. In America, the reason why we had to do that was because back home where you and I come from, right, majority of us, it's as if our family members, and we'll see this when we go back home, we become like slaves to our families. You become like a slave. If you've seen like a lot, and I've seen this with a lot of family units, back home, the father is the slave to his family. The mother is the slave to her in-laws. It's like you have no personal rights. As long as you're in the home, you have to forsake everything that you usually do in order to make somebody else happy that doesn't even talk to you on a regular daily basis. How many times have we seen that even amongst our own parents? You go back home and subhanAllah, you know, your mother or your father won't even be able to sit down. Some uncle comes, oh, you're from America. You know, money grows off trees over there, right? Give me this and give me that. And the dude doesn't even talk to you guys. He hasn't seen you for the past 10 years. He found out that you guys are from America, then he comes. You will see our own mothers, they go and they're not even able to sit down because majority of the day they're making coffee for somebody, making chai for somebody, in the kitchen, doing this, doing the household chores. They're not even able to sit down. So what ended up happening was, as a reactionary response to that trauma, we started saying, don't focus on anybody else, only focus on yourself. Islam says no. Islam says, number one, we have our own personal rights. The Prophet ﷺ said in the Quran, وَإِنَّ لِجَسَدِكَ عَلَيْكَ حَقًّا, that your body has a right upon you. But also at the same time, the Prophet ﷺ says, وَإِنَّ لِأَهْلِكَ عَلَيْكَ حَقًّا, that your family, the people around you, also have a right upon you. Now how do you balance between both? It's simply that you have to follow the Quran and the Sunnah. In places where Islam tells you that you shouldn't be prioritizing yourself, then you don't prioritize yourself. When Islam tells you you should be prioritizing others over yourself, then you do that. For example, right? This is for example. And we're going to go into a little bit of fiqh over here. When you get married, okay, when you get married, if you're making money, right? In the Islamic scriptures, it's about the husband, but it applies to anybody who's making money, right? There are some differences, but we'll look at it from a general perspective. If you get married, who deserves your wealth the most? Who deserves your wealth the most? Number one is your children. Okay? Number one is your children. Your children deserve your money over anybody else amongst your family, amongst your relatives. After that is your spouse. Okay? And after that is your parents. Beyond that, if you end up spending for other people, it is not you spending as a requirement, but you're spending it as a form of ihsan and excellency in your worship. Now take that into your own scenario. If you have a person that's coming to you, right, and the person is like a far relative, and he's asking something that you cannot fulfill, then it is not his right upon you that you have to give him or her that money. Is that understood? Sometimes like these fatu things, like people get married and now all of a sudden I have to pay, copious amounts of money outside of the mahar for certain things. Actually back home it's the opposite. So the husband's family or the husband will pay the mahar to the wife, and mashallah, back home where I'm from specifically, I don't know about you guys, the wife's family has to pay everything else. Okay? So the wife's family, the girl's family has to provide the car, they have to provide the house, they have to provide like suits for the entire husband's family. They have to provide so many different things. That's not a part of Islam. If you do it, that's a part of your own ihsan. So you get what I'm saying? Islam has laid boundaries where you prioritize yourself in cases and you also prioritize your family in other cases. So the way out for that is you just need to follow what Islam tells you to do. If you do that, you will create a balance between individualism, like loving yourself, and also focusing on your family as well. So that's the second problem of why we don't have lasting relationships. My dear brothers and sisters in Islam, a lot of us who are lonely, we complain about being lonely, and we complain about, oh, I had this friend, but this friend left me. And I have this friend, and this friend, didn't do anything. And I have this friend, and this friend didn't provide me anything in my life. We fail to realize that what puts substance into friendships is being there for each other. What puts substance in your friendship is being there for each other. Allah mentions this in the Quran. The Prophet ﷺ mentions this in a hadith. وَاللَّهُ فِي عَوْنِ الْعَبْدِ مَا دَامَ الْعَبْدُ فِي عَوْنِ أَخِيهِ. That a person will constantly help someone so long as that person is helping his brother or his sister. And this applies for the sisters as well. Friendship is built upon helping each other. It's not just about, and I tell people this, it's not about when the person comes to you saying, oh, I need help, then you help them. No. It's about always looking out for each other. Look at the seerah. How many times did the Prophet ﷺ spend parts of his day in just asking about people? When we were here for the seerah conference, I talked about when the Prophet ﷺ one time, he's there for Fajr prayer, and he asks about a lady that nobody had seen, but she would come to Masjid Nabawi in the middle of the night to clean Masjid Nabawi and ignite the fire, like the candles. So it could be like, there could be light when people would come to pray tahajjud. When she wasn't there for a day, the Prophet ﷺ immediately asked about her. How many times did the Prophet ﷺ ask about needy, poor people? How many times? We know the story of Salman al-Farisi radiallahu anhu, when he came as a slave, and he was a slave to somebody in Medina. And the Prophet ﷺ had a fundraiser in Masjid Nabawi to pay off his ransom so he can become free. We know the story. But what we don't realize is that Salman al-Farisi never had to ask the Prophet, help me out. The Prophet himself went. And he said, do you need help? We know the story of Bilal radiallahu anhu, who was a slave, and Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, who freed him. What we don't realize is that Bilal never had to ask anybody. His own friends, his companions, went up to him and they freed him themselves. So when we look at helping each other, it's not just about when the person asks you for help. It's constantly looking out for each other. How many times do we have friends? But it's such a reciprocative relationship. Muslims nowadays, we have this problem. We are very reciprocative. If you do good to me, then I'll do good to you. I always give the example of when we go for gatherings with family friends, right? So we go for dawats. What will you see? This is literally what happens, all right? You can reject this, you can agree with this, but this is what happens, it's a fact. If somebody has a gathering and they have the dawat, all of the other families will come, and what will they do? They'll give gifts. What a lot of these families do, and your parents do this, okay, so don't say I'm wrong, your parents do this. Even if they don't write down who gave them a gift, they will mentally keep it in their mind. So when that person invites you for a dawat, based upon if the person gave you a gift when he came to your house or she came to your house, you will give a gift back or not. That's literally how it runs. That's how it is. And another thing is we, subhanAllah, we pass gifts around. Nowadays for us, gifts is not something that is done with love. It's not something that's done with care. We always tell people that friendship is based upon giving, and we'll talk about it. But it's not about giving like a Barnes & Noble's gift card. That's not what it is. Like an Amazon gift card. No. It's not about the quantity. It's about the thought and care that you put into that gift when you gave your friend that gift. Alright? So in dawats, you'll see this. One time, we went to a gathering. Dawat is gathering. You all know that, right? This is in New York. You guys are majority Bengalis, so you guys should know this thing. Dawat, right? Dawat is gathering with food. Was that a bit too much? That's fine, it's fine. This is New York, it's okay. It's not California. So, our family went to a gathering, and my mom gave the auntie, their family, a rice cooker. Okay? A rice cooker. 4 months later, we had a gathering in our house. And guess what shows up as one of the gifts? The same rice cooker. The thing is, it never came from the person that we gifted it to. So I decided to do a little investigation, and I found out that we have like gatherings almost every weekend. This was passed around in every single dawah until it ended up back into our house. Like, this family gives to this family gives this family, this family, and then it ended up back into our house. It's like gift giving. First of all, it's very hard for us to give gifts. Like, sometimes we look out for our friends, and that's a big thing nowadays, right? But we barely gift gifts, right? But when we do, it's like, there's not that much thought into it. But in reality, it's about the care, it's about the thought that comes behind giving the gift. Even if you bring something that is like, that has no value at all. The fact that you thought about that person, you thought about that gift, you thought about how they will like it, that's what really counts. So the end matter of this discussion is that we cannot complain about having bad friends if we're not putting substance in our friendship. So first, remember, the first problem we have is the basis and the core of the friendship. And that is that we're not building our friendships and getting closer to Allah. Number 2 is, we don't put substance in our relationship. When I came here last time, did I talk about mahabba or love? Did I talk about that concept? Yeah, you guys probably forgot. It's okay. So we'll talk about it again. Look, mahabba, the Arabic word mahabba means what? What does it mean? Love. What does mahabba come from? Anybody know? What Arabic word does mahabba come from? Hub. Very good. What's another word that has the same like letters? Habibi. Okay, good. It's very generic. Okay. The word I'm looking for is, what was the word? Habba. What does habba mean? Huh? A piece. Habba. But what does it like, okay, I need to go a little bit more specific. The Arabic language is so vast, subhanAllah. When I'm talking about agriculture, what does habba mean?
Seed.
A seed. Very good. Why is habba, which means seed, also the same root word or in the same category as mahabba, which means love? Yes, use your critical thinking. Bismillah.
So it starts with a plant and it grows right and something that is like, it's attainable to this right.
Very good. So you said that just like how a seed grows into like a tree or a plant, love grows gradually. That's a good way of looking at it, but you're missing the point. There's one critical point. Yes?
Love has to be nurtured as well.
Very good. Love has to be nurtured. You don't get a tree, okay, by putting, you just like plant the seed and you just leave it be. What ends up happening to that seed? It never grows. How do you create a plant from a seed? You nurture it. What is it called?
Water.
You water it. I was going to say you put rain on it. That doesn't make sense. You water it. You give it sunlight. You care for it. Remember, it's not just about like, you guys have cats? Cats is not just about like giving them food, but how cats tend to grow love for you is if you actually show it attention. You care about it, right? So the same thing with the trees. It's not just about watering it and showing it sunlight, but it's also caring for the plant, thinking about the plant. If you do that, if you put substance into the seed, then only will it grow into a tree and therefore give you fruits. Therefore, mahabba, which is love, cannot be love unless you put substance into it and unless you nurture it. You cannot expect to keep a friend if you're not putting substance into that relationship. If you're not looking out for the person. If you're not giving gifts to the person. If you're not literally just, helping out that person. Sometimes it's not about giving. It's about just being there. A lot of times, people just need an ear to listen. Something's like, sometimes I do this a lot, like even with my own friends and they complain. They're like, Idris, you're always giving targhib, like you're always giving advice. Sometimes, my friends tell me this, like sometimes I just want you to shut up and just listen to me. Just listen. I just want to complain. I just want to mention my problems. I don't want any advice from you. I just want you to listen. Sometimes people just need that ear. And that's why you're that type of friend. Okay? So substance, okay? Putting love into it, that's what creates a friendship. Now, how do you you're like, okay, I'll do it, but what if the friend is not worth it? Or something like that, right? That's where this whole thing of choosing a good friend comes. So, I'm following an outline here, so if you're taking notes, we first talked about why we don't have friendships. And we mentioned two causes. What was the first cause? Anybody can tell me? No, before that.
We base it on worldly matters.
Good. The basis of the friendship is on?
Worldly matters.
Worldly matters. Very good. The second thing, yes, the memories of Imam al-Bukhari. What do you guys think? What's the second one?
We don't put substance into our relationship.
Very good. We don't put substance into the relationship. And also, when we do, we expect it back. Alright? Like if I gave you a gift, I expect it back. I remember, when I was 13, I started my Islamic studies journey in a boarding school in Detroit called Michigan Islamic Institute. And it's also known as Miftah Institute, which Mufti Abdul Wahab, who is the director, is going to come to you guys next week, right? Friday. I really recommend all of you all to listen to him. He's amazing. So he's literally like my dad, because I spent from ages 13 to 17 in that boarding school. That boarding school, mashallah, there's nothing like this in America. They offer, it's geared towards younger kids, and what they do is they don't just teach you Islamic studies, they teach you academics as well. So when you graduate from your Islamic studies program, you also graduate from your high school program. So that's one thing. You don't find that in America. You find either or. The other thing is that everything is catered for. It's literally like parents will just drop their kid off and they don't need to worry about food, clothing, everything. Everything is taken care of in that facility. And guess how much it costs? Only $550 a month. For education? Back when I was there, it was not good food. Like we had only dal chawal like all 7 days of the week. But now it's been amazing. Dal chawal is like lentils and rice. Now it's amazing food. They take care of everything, mashallah. And it's only $550 a month. So what ends up happening is, there's a huge waiting list. Because there's so many parents that want to put their kids in. So there was a guy, this is literally last week. Uncle called me, some random number. So I pick up the phone, I was like, who is this? He was like, Assalamu alaikum, beta Idris, do you remember me? I was like, I do not know who you are, uncle, who are you? And he's like, oh, you should remember me. We go a long way back, right? And I was like, who are you? And he was like, Idris, when you were 14 years old, one time you came to a masjid during Ramadan to lead Taraweeh prayers. I was the uncle who gave you the date to break your fast. Okay? So I already knew this was going somewhere. So I was like, yes, uncle, what do you want from me? And he was like, Beta, I know you're affiliated with this one Islamic school, and I want to put my kids into it. And I would have done it, but the way he worded it was like this. I did such a great favor upon you. I took care of you when you were a young kid. Can you do this favor for me now? I was like, bro, I still don't know who in the world you are. Like, you gave me a date, right? It's like, and I was so young. I was like, the way how you worded it, I really can't help you. And I ended up saying like, look, everybody's on the same boat. I can't help you because you helped me. It's not how the system works. But look at the intent behind it. He could have just came and asked for help. But the very fact that you have to bring up something good that you did before to get something back, that's not how a healthy relationship works. So remember this, it's not about 50-50, but it's about 100-100. Think about that through friendship. You give that person your 100, and that person, inshallah, will give you that 100. Even if he or she doesn't, then it's fine, because ultimately you're doing it for Allah. Why? Because the basis of your relationship was built upon not what? Worldly matters, but for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So those are two reasons why we don't have lasting friendships. How much time do we have? 7:12. Okay. Okay. Bismillah. Look, why friendship is so important in Islam, and this is a very new perspective of friendship, and you won't hear this anywhere else. The reason why friendship is so important, because you can be like, look, why do I need to spend so much time and effort on somebody that's not going to help me? It's just like a lasting thing. I should be focusing on Allah. Yes, these things are true. But the reason why friendship is so important is, number one, friendship in Islam is not something that's physical, but it's actually very spiritual. It's metaphysical. In a hadith, the Prophet ﷺ says, does anybody know the hadith that I'm going to mention? It's not a hadith, but a sahib, a sahib, yes. But how is friendship linked to, like, other than this world? There's a very beautiful hadith, and we can talk about this, we can have a whole course on this. The Prophet ﷺ says, Al-arwahu junudun mujannada. Okay? Al-arwahu junudun mujannada. Which means that souls are like the structured units of an army. I'm going to say that again. Souls are like the structured units of an army. Just like how, if a general wants his army to win the battle, he will group people based upon their common interests. So this is a very new perspective on the army, and I hope nobody else hears this, because this will literally win wars. Don't base people just upon their skill sets. Alright, so you have like the Navy, you have the, what are the infantry, like you have that categorization. The Prophet ﷺ is saying that a better categorization of amongst this is to group people based upon common interests that they have. Because if you group people based upon common interests, psychologically they'll create this type of love and trust, and that works in favor for the general of the army. Because now you're not just fighting for the country, you're fighting because you've created an amazing relationship and friendship through the military that you don't want to forsake. Isn't that cool? It's like a whole psychological understanding of the military. And that's what the Prophet is saying. He's like, look, a good general is somebody who doesn't just base the units of his army based upon what they do, but also based upon what they like doing. Alright? And their personalities. The way that he mentioned this, like why he's saying this is, before we became alive, before we were given our bodies, all of us were souls in the realm of, anybody know what the realm is called? Alam al-arwah, the realm of the souls. Before we all came to this world, we were all living in soul form, in ruh form, in a realm called Alam al-arwah. In Alam al-arwah, Allah basically gathered every single soul, every single body, every single human being that ever is going to come into this world. And He made us testify to this one thing called the ahad, which is the oath of testimony. Alright? Basically, what it means is, basically we were all alive. Alright? From the time of Adam till Yawm al-Qiyamah. Imagine everybody's on one plane, we were all just chilling. Alright? We're all just chilling. And then Allah literally calls all of us and says, look, I am going to, in a couple, whatever, million, billion, trillion, bazillion years later, I'm going to put you all into this earth. I want you to understand that when I put you onto this earth, the only true religion and faith is mine. And when you hear a prophet coming to you and telling you about me, then you will know that this is the right thing. And this is where we get this concept of the fitrah, the innate disposition. And this is something that's very important when you give da'wah. Understand that everybody has an innate disposition towards Allah. Whether you're a Muslim or you're a non-Muslim. You know what's so cool? These atheists, right? Who you think, oh, they don't have this innate disposition, they don't believe in God, because they literally don't believe in God. But the fitrah works in a different way. So have you guys heard of like the Sagittarius and the Aquarius and the, what is it called? Astrology signs, right? Okay, that's one thing. Have you guys also heard of like these like magical crystals, like green, blue, and pink. And supposedly these stars and constellations and these rocks have an effect on how your demeanor is. This is something that's very common on social media. So like, they have like these things of like, they have these like horoscope reading things. So sometimes if you're, and this is the thing, like, and this all comes to like, sometimes we project our problems on something else as an excuse. So people do this. You'll find like a guy who just has anger problems. Like the guy does not know how to control his anger. So guess what he'll blame it on? He won't blame it on himself. But he'll blame it on some poor, miskin constellation that had nothing to do with his life. Right? Where does that come from? The innate disposition that Allah gave us will always be seeking for a higher power. If you don't believe in God, you'll still believe in something to make sense of the world and the universe. Because ultimately, no matter how much science, okay, no matter how many okay, it's too unfiltered. No matter how many things you try to do to logically or empirically explain this universe, you won't be able to, and in the end, you will have to rely on a higher power. If it's not God, then it's going to be Sagittarius. Okay? That's literally what it is. Where did this concept come from? Yes. Yes.
They also refer to the universe as God.
Exactly. They also refer to the universe as God. This is why this is a problem with atheists and scientists. Science was created as a methodology that was supposed to be subjective. Okay? If they created a theory, they were like, okay, this could be true, this doesn't have to be true. But now it's literally become a religion, where the Big Bang Theory is the truth, and whatever happens other than it is not the truth. So you see how everything becomes a religion, every ideology becomes a religion. That's just a part of our fitrah. So where this comes from is, the Prophet ﷺ has said that in this realm, where our souls were all together, basically we would conversate with each other. Okay? Have you ever, in this world, right? Have you ever talked to somebody that you've never talked to before? And after just 2-3 sentences, you guys just click? And it's as if you guys were the best of friends for the longest of times? And then maybe you don't see that person for years. And you come back to that person and it's as if you never stopped being their friend. Sometimes you just talk to people and it just clicked. You know what that means? Back when we were souls, we used to be best buddies. Isn't that interesting? Also, the opposite is true. And I tell this to people all the time. Sometimes you try your best to be friendly with somebody, but that person is just okay? That person is just you guys don't vibe. You know what that means? You guys tried to hang out in the alam al-arwah before we came into this world, and you guys never clicked. And that effect is coming into this world. So you see how the relationships that you make and the friendships that you have are an effect of that realm before even you were born? That's why friendship is so important. It started from a time before we were even born. That's the beauty of it. Now, in regards to this world, the reason why friendship is so important is because, look, the purpose of our lives is to please Allah and to go to Jannah. That is based upon the state of your heart, the state of your soul. Your soul, the state of your soul will change based upon your environment. Because ultimately, your heart is connected to your mouth, which is connected to your ears, which is connected to your limbs. Never separate both. Alright? Never separate both. You cannot be a good person, you cannot have a spiritual state of your soul if you're doing bad things. So long as you're looking at bad things, you're listening to haram things, you're engaging in bad things, that will affect your soul. Okay? We're getting, spirituality is based upon the state of the soul. The state of the soul is based upon your physical actions. Your physical actions is based upon the environment that you live in. Okay? So if you're in a good environment, you'll end up doing good things which will what? Change the state of your soul, and you get closer to Allah that way. The same thing is, the opposite also applies. if you're in a bad environment, it will make you do bad things, which will change the state of your soul to worse, and that will affect your relationship with Allah and your ultimate destination in the hereafter. Is that understood? Okay, from your environment, who's the one person that literally shapes it? Like, who's the one person that is always with you at all times? Your friend. Your friend. It will be your friend. Not your parents, not your children, not your spouse, unless she's or he is your friend. Right? That's different. Anybody else in your life. The one person who literally becomes your environment is your friend. Therefore, your friend can make you or break you. And that's what the sister said. As-sahib. Oh no. Okay. That's why there's a statement of as-sahib, as-sahib. Your companion will drag you either to Jannah or either to Jahannam. My dear brothers and sisters in Islam, you could think of yourself as the biggest, most pious person in New York. But wallahi al-azim, if you don't have good friends and you have a bad environment, you won't even realize it. But that will change you. It's a silent killer. It's a silent killer. Wallahi, it will change you. It's not even a fact of if it will change you. It's now a fact of how bad it will change you. The opposite is also true. Why did Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah say the super famous quote, أُحِبُّ الصَّالِحِينَ وَلَسْتَ مِنْهُمْ لَعَلَّهُ. Why did Imam Shafi'i say that, of course, he is the most salih person of his time, the most pious person, the biggest scholar. But he purposely said that I love the people of piety and I'm not from amongst them. Perhaps it is my companionship around them that will take me to Jannah. He understood it. He understood it. This is not just coming from my own self. You can look at it like, subhanAllah, and this is coming even from a personal experience. I will pray my salah 5 times a day. But when I had bad friends who didn't pray, that really affected me. And you don't realize this, but look at this, right? And I always say, if you have a bad company, then it affects you in 5 steps. Alright? Write this down, it's very true. Number 1, dude, where is it? Okay, I know I did. Okay, number 1 is, if for example, we'll take prayer as an example. If you're somebody who prays, but you're around friends who don't pray, even if they don't care, like, they're not like, oh, praying is a bad thing. No, it's not like that. They just don't pray. There's 4 or 5 stages in which you will become like that. Number 1 is, you'll accept it. You'll start accepting it. Which means that you will pray on your own, but you'll accept the fact that they don't pray. Right? They'll just be like, oh, it is what it is. Right? In the beginning, you'll try to change them. Alright? And we also need to talk about like the whole thing of if I have bad friends, but what if I want to change them? Should I stay as their friend? That's also something we should talk about. Okay, remind me inshallah. Or if I don't talk about it, then ask it to me as a question. Number 1 is you accept it. Number 2, you start to justify it. So you start to say, you know what ends up happening? Oh, they are on their own path to Allah. Okay? You don't realize, and you know yourself, that it's not like they're doing this because they're struggling to get closer to Allah and sometimes in His prayers. No, they actually intentionally miss their prayers. And now you start justifying it. They're like, oh, it's, I don't want to push them because they're on their own ladder to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's love, which is true, but that only applies if they're actually making the effort, not if they're intentionally leaving it. That's step number 2. Step number 3 is, you'll start debating people for it. So 1 is, you'll justify it to your friends. And the second step actually is, you'll justify it to yourself. So you'll be like, okay, I shouldn't help them, I shouldn't tell them to pray, because I don't want to look like that type of person who's like super religious and taking them away from Islam. It's okay, Allah will give them hidayah and stuff like that. Okay, the third thing is, you'll start to justify it to others. So now somebody may come up and check, you'll be like, look, you should actually help your friends, they're not praying. What will you do? Oh, you're a religious fundamentalist, go away, go somewhere else. These people, they should find Islam on their own. And they're coming to Allah on their own. And this and that, you'll start to justify it to others. And the last stage is, you'll literally start losing value for salah, and you'll end up stop praying. This doesn't just apply to salah. And I got this, and I'm not saying this from my own experience, but when Dr. Haifa Yunus was a very famous female scholar, she talked about this phenomenon with sisters and hijab. So she mentioned this. She's like, look, I have seen with my own eyes sisters that wear hijab, mashallah, and they're fully covered, and what ends up happening is they go around with sisters that don't wear hijab. I'm not saying anything about not wearing hijab. That is a whole different discussion on its own. But what happens is, if you're not actually trying to help your friend, if you're not trying to get them closer to Allah in a very good way, I'm not saying in a way of like, wear hijab, that's not what it is. The effects become known. She's like, I have seen sisters that go around with sisters that don't wear hijab, and slowly their hijab starts to go back and back and back and back until they stop wearing hijab altogether. This is not my words. This is the words of a female scholar. So this is not just in regards to a few things. This is in regards to overall spirituality. And that leads us to this. Look, it's not about only choosing, it's not about only choosing good friends. It's not about only choosing people that are, subhanAllah, people who you aspire to be. That's not friendship in Islam. Friendship in Islam is to befriend people who understand the value of Allah and Islam, and they're actually making an effort to become better people. That's what it is. That's literally what it is. Number one, choose friends, choose friends who forget pious people, because now the pious people can say, why should I befriend you? You know what I mean? So it's not about being pious. It's not about having a close relationship. It's literally about befriending people who actually care about Islam and they want to actually change. That's the main requirement that you should choose for a friend, where they want to actually come closer to Allah. In that, the first requirement of choosing a good friend is fulfilled. True friendship is built upon a love and sincerity and worship for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's what friendship should be built upon. Friendship should be built upon a love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why the Prophet ﷺ says, it's such a beautiful hadith, he says, one of the people, or one of the groups of people that is going to be shaded by the throne of Allah in Yawm al-Qiyamah, when it will be a day where the sun is literally right above your head, and people will be looking for places to give them shade. You will be shaded by the throne of Allah. One of those groups are people who love each other for the sake of Allah. And they come together and they depart for the sake of Allah. Those are true friendships. Those are true friendships that actually last. So number one, when you look at a true friend that you want to, if you want to choose a good friend, choose somebody who is interested in creating that relationship for the sake of Allah. And number two, that person don't care about where they are, because who is you and I to go and judge other people based upon what they're doing and say, oh, he's closer to Allah, she's closer to Allah. That's not what it is. Befriend people who are actually making a conscious effort to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's number one. Number two is that, and this is also a side discussion, and the question comes up that, forget about choosing friends. What if I already have bad friends? And what should I do? Right? Should I leave my bad friends? Should I try to help my bad friends? Right? What should I do? This is the solution. Look, in the times of the companions, people became Muslim, but they also had their friends that they left behind. Nowhere in the seerah will you see that the companions who became Muslim all of a sudden casted all of their non-Muslim friends away. There's nothing like that. They maintained that friendliness. But what was a differentiating factor between leaving them or trying to get them to be better is this. Remember, the ultimate purpose of friendship is having a good environment, and the ultimate purpose of having a good environment is getting closer to Allah. Therefore, if you try to help your friend, but you know that friend is in such a state that they will pull you in with them, then leave the friendship. If you think that the person is, mashallah, they're even though they're not praying, even though they're not, doing certain actions of Islam, but they actually have a genuine care and concern, and you know that if you work on them, they will actually make an effort to become better, keep those friends. That's the differentiating factor. Okay, I'm going to say it again. Alright? If you feel like you will be dragged down, those are the relationships which Allah tells you to leave. Those who you think that will actually be affected and start getting better, those are actually friendships that will be rewarding for you. And you don't realize, sometimes helping other people will help you become a better person. Sometimes you and I, we always look for mentors. But some of us, we don't realize that a big portion of us becoming better is helping other people become better. And it comes back to the hadith. Allah will continuously help somebody as long as that person is helping somebody else. See how beautiful that is? So we don't look down upon people, but we focus on our spirituality more than everything else. So that's the first thing. Have people or befriend people, choose friends that actually are trying to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and will help you get closer to Allah, and you can help them get closer to Allah. Now the biggest question is like, where do I find those friends? Where do I find those friends? You guys live in New York, subhanAllah. I come from Dallas. Dallas has its own problems. But you know what I mean? There are bad environments everywhere. So how are you supposed to find a good friend? Remember this. I'm going to keep on coming back to this. Friendship, the reason why we have friendship is so that we can create a good environment. Therefore, if you want to find a good friend, go to the places where good people would actually hang out in. Okay? What you guys are doing right now, that's the best. Like, this is the most fertile soil for you to cultivate amazing friendships. Don't look for friendships anywhere else. This is it. So if you're a lonely person, it's okay. It's okay. If you're introverted, it's okay. It's not about, it's not a sin in Islam to be an introvert. And we'll talk about that. Right? But what you want to look for, or the friends that you want to look for, and the places you want to look for, is places like this. These types of events, where people are actually coming to become better people. Right? Even if you have friends, look, this is all about caring for other people. You may say that, Idris, I have the best friend group of all time. We pray tahajjud every single day. Okay, fine, good. But there may be somebody around you, next to you, that is looking for that type of friendship. Be a facilitator for them. Be a facilitator for them. Wallahi, my dear brothers and sisters, we're so focused on ourselves. We don't care about other people. When I was living in Dallas, I just moved to Chicago 2 months ago, but when I was living in Dallas, I was the imam of a very big masjid in America. And, in Dallas. And here's the thing about big masjids and Dallas communities in general. What ends up happening is that there's so many Muslims that are moving to Dallas. People get lost in the sauce. People get not recognized. There was a time when, back in 2015 and 16, where people were just moving to Dallas, Muslim families from across America. And one beautiful thing that we used to do in our masajid was, basically we would, on every single Thursday night after Maghrib, the imam would stand up and say, hey, is there anybody that just moved into our community? And people will stand up, and the imam will literally force them to introduce themselves and the reason why they're there. And what's so beautiful is that the community would love this. So once the person introduces themselves, they would be swarmed by a bunch of people. Hey, do you like coffee? Do you like this? Hey, let's go out for coffee. And they literally try to assimilate them into their friend groups. This was something so beautiful. SubhanAllah, you don't see that anymore in Dallas. Because there's so many people moving in, it's so hard to keep count. One time, I led Maghrib Salah. This is what? The end of last year. One time, after Maghrib Salah, what I like to do is, I've realized the importance of making people feel at home in the masjid. So what I like to do is, after every single salah, I try to just say salam to as many people as I can. Especially the ones that I don't recognize. I'm like, Assalamu alaikum, how are you? What's your name? Where do you live? We're always here for you. That's literally it. And it goes a long way. There was one brother who I met that day after Maghrib. And I literally just go up to him, okay? And I stand in front of him and the guy is startled. He's looking at me, he's like, oh, what happened? And I literally say, listen to this. I say, Assalamu alaikum. What's your name, brother? And when he hears that, he started crying. He started crying. And he started crying and crying. I literally thought this dude was possessed. I had to take him to the office, like, is everything okay, brother? What happened? What happened? You know what this brother told me? Huh? He said, I moved to this community 3 years ago. This is the first time somebody said Salaam Alaikum to me. He said, I've been coming to the masjid regularly and nobody has said Salam to me yet. And you're the first person in the 3 years that I've been here that said Salaam Alaikum. That's not right, man. For the next 2 weeks, every single Fajr Khatira, I just talked about this. It's like, you guys are pathetic. We are pathetic. I am a pathetic person. How dare I not see this person coming continuously and I didn't say salam to him? What's the point of building a huge community? What's the point of structuring our communities where the masjid is in the center and all of the Muslims are living in houses around? If we are not saying salam to each other, what is the purpose of this? Why are we fundraising tens of millions of dollars to create a waqf project so that a restaurant can supply our operations and do this and that when we don't even care about each other? Go pray at home. That's not how it should be. Remember, you may be blessed, but the person next to you needs blessing. So bless him or her, and that may be your ticket to Jannah. Please. If there's somebody that you don't recognize, go up to that person and actually say salam because you don't know what they're going through. There's so many times where I was studying in madrasa and as a 16-year-old, 17-year-old person, alhamdulillah, I was blessed to have an amazing class and we were very, very close as friends and as classmates. But I realized that there were other kids in the madrasa, in the school, that nobody would go and say salam to, especially the younger kids. So I would go and I would just say salam. You do not know how many kids ended up staying in that boarding school just because I used to say salam to them. And they would leave because they came into that environment thinking, I'm going to make all the friends in the world. And they literally became like, the guest room furniture that your mom tells not to sit on except when guests come. Like that's literally what they felt like. They just felt like they were random pieces of furniture in a house. Nobody was caring about them. There were so many people that I would just look at and I would just realize from their emotions yo, this person is feeling kind of down. I would literally go to the brother and I would give him a hug. I would just give him a hug. And that person would just cry and cry. Because when there are so many kids that are in a boarding school, not everybody comes from a good family. There are so many kids that were studying whose parents were divorced and they were in the middle. They were pulled between two sections. Nobody was asking about what they were going through. And that hug helped them get through everything. My dear brothers and sisters in Islam, after basing relationship on Allah, we have to realize that the beauty of Islam is that we care about each other. And when we don't care about each other, that is people who don't like Islam benefiting off of us. We talked about this, right? And we were just comparing stories, and I'll just mention very briefly. It's already 7:41? What time is Maghrib?
8:18.
8:18? Okay. 7:50, stop me. Okay? And then we'll have Q&A. If you can stop me. Inshallah. Okay. What was I saying? Somebody remind me? What is it? Yes. The beauty of Islam is that we care for other people. We don't realize that the disunity and the lack of friendship that we have amongst each other is literally built because somebody structured it to be that way. You will see this because you guys are all from New York, and I always give this example. I read the ayah, وَالْمُؤْمِنُونَ وَالْمُؤْمِنَاتِ بَعْضُهُمْ أَوْلِيَاءُ بَعْضٍ. Believing men and believing women are allies of each other. We are supposed to, the gender thing aside, us as Muslims, no matter where we're from, we are supposed to support each other at all times. Relationship-wise, and also strategically. You know what's so interesting? Guess who else Allah talks about being friends and allies of each other too? The disbelievers as well. So there's another ayah that says, وَالَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا بَعْضُهُمْ أَوْلِيَاءُ بَعْضٍ. The disbelieving men and the disbelieving women, you will find them to also be friends and allies of each other. I always give this example to illustrate this. There is something that we can learn from disbelievers, and that is they know how to remain together. I did this project where a couple of years ago I came to New York and I went to Brooklyn. And Brooklyn is run... Will I get canceled? No, I'm not saying anything bad about them. This is a good quality that you guys have. Please don't cancel me. Okay, the Jews of Brooklyn, you can say whatever you want about them. But one thing they have understood is this concept of wilayah, supporting each other. And this is something that our Muslim community needs to realize. I went to a dinner over here. So basically, all of the Jews of Brooklyn, the rabbis, the businessmen, and even the kids who are going to middle school and high school, they will have these huge gatherings where everybody will come under one roof. Okay? And this is so beautiful. You know, sometimes we have weddings amongst Muslims. How do we usually group ourselves? The youth are here, all these rich doctor uncles are here, and the engineers are here. This family group is here. This kind of cult is over here, sitting in the back, thinking about who to do jadoo and black magic on. Right? You have all these different people, but everybody is sectioned amongst themselves. It's not a bad thing. It's just that this is what we know. I wouldn't know how to talk to a doctor as much as I know how to talk to a scholar or something like that, right? It's substantiated. You know what these Jews do though? The billionaire will purposely sit next to the high school student. And he won't just do that. He'll literally strike a conversation. And this happened before my eyes. This Jewish billionaire, he comes up and he has I'm not stereotyping him, but he's the CEO or the head of consultation for a bank, okay? So this billionaire, a Jewish banker, I'm seeing this with my own eyes. He starts the conversation with this high school kid. And he's like, hey, what's your name? And he'll mention a name. Okay, I don't want to, this is online, so I don't want to mention a specific name, right? So anyways, you guys know the 5 names that they all have. So then the high school student's like, oh, my name is this. And then the billionaire will be like, okay, what do you do? And what are your hobbies? What do you envision yourself doing in the future? And the high school kid will be like, look, after high school, I want to pursue this degree. But in this specific story I heard, and I saw, the kid said, I love photography. I'm a photographer. I love taking photos. Okay? You know what this guy does, the billionaire? He literally says this, look, let me see some of your photos. He shows him some photos. He's like, okay, I'm going to hire you to do a job for me. I have this type of, he was talking about some sort of card or credit card that they were trying to do. And so he's like, I need somebody that will take good photographs of this card. So come to my office on Monday, I'll give you my number, and I will help you do this. And not only will I give you money for helping me, I will also make sure you go through the necessary people possible so you could become the best photographer. You see how they build each other? They've realized this. The biggest way to create unity is to keep the money amongst yourselves. Nowadays as Muslims, we are literally handing out money to our enemies because we don't invest in Muslim startups and Muslim butcher shops and Muslim grocery stores. We will go to the disbelievers shop and this and that, and we're basically handing them money. They've realized we need to keep money amongst ourselves. They know how to do this so well. You know what's crazy? Us Muslims, we don't know this. I was in a community in California. I don't want to mention the name. And in this community, there was a Muslim brother who out for the needs of the community, because everybody there there was nobody that was selling halal, like zabiha, hand-slaughtered chicken. And he said, you know what? Let me open up a butcher/meat shop so I can cater for the needs of the community. And so he did that, all right? And the community loved it, and they started giving him business. And this guy, mashallah, he was doing it as a source of benefit, and he was getting good business as well, which is good. Now here's where the story gets bad. Some other uncle, he's like, dude, this is a very good business opportunity. Let me not only start another shop, but let me try to steal this guy's customers. I literally saw this with my own eyes. This is the street, okay? This guy, the old guy, the mashallah, the good guy, his butcher shop is here. Guess where the other guy's butcher shop is? Right here. Forget across the street, it's literally there. Like, okay, across the street is good because if you look at one direction, you'll not see the other shop. But this is, if you're looking at one butcher shop, you'll see the other butcher shop. You know what's even crazier? The first guy's meat shop, the name of the meat shop was Rahman Chicken. Okay? Guess what the other guy named his meat shop? Rahim Chicken. Well, Rahman Chicken, he's like, he wanted to make it like religious, but he's creating like differentiation amongst the community. This is the mentality that we have. And we don't realize this is not a part of Islam. This is somebody else, we don't want to mention who, this is somebody else. This is a group of people that do not like Islam, and they want to make sure that they remove this aspect of friendships built upon caring for each other out of the spectrum. Because that is how they will become more powerful, because we end up mentally investing in them, financially investing in them, and we lose our power as people. So you see how caring for people is such a beautiful concept in Islam, which people realize if we want to make the Muslims weak, we have to take this quality out of the relationships. The reason why I'm saying this is the problem that we have. This is the problem that we have. We have to stop thinking that you are like the main character. Okay, you're like the hero of the story, and everybody else is an NPC. And everybody else is just supposed to cater for your needs. That's not what it is. You are a part of a grander narrative. And that grander narrative is the Muslim society of the world. You becoming a part of it by caring for others is what creates unity, and it is what creates strength in numbers. So please remember that. How do you care for others? We already talked about it. Not just giving gifts, not just being there when people ask for our help, but actually looking out for each other. We don't do this often. We don't just call we call our friends just for the sake of it. Okay, 7:50. I'll end on this. We call our friends for the sake of it, but it is for what? What is it for? Oh, did you hear what she did? Oh, did you hear what he did? Oh, what are you eating? I'm having like a matcha latte. Like, what? Now, how many times do we call each other like, hey man, I love you for the sake of Allah. Do you need anything right now? How can I help you? How can I help you? That is something that's so powerful, and that will literally change the aspects of the friendships that we have in America and in the entire globe. I want to end off with this, okay? I want to end off with this. In Islam, we have the concept of being friendly versus befriending. I'm going to say this again. In Islam, we have the concept of being friendly versus befriending. Islam tells you that you have to be friendly with everybody. You have to be friendly with everybody. Just because somebody's not your friend, or just because and I'm saying this because sometimes we focus on good friendship and we start to automatically look down upon people that are not trying to get closer to Allah. That's not the point of it all. We're not supposed to discard those people. We're supposed to make dua for them and help them as much as we can. In Islam, we have the concept of being friendly. The Prophet ﷺ says, "Al-mu'minu ya'laf wa yu'laf." Okay, this is where the introvert aspect comes into this. A believing man and a believing woman is supposed to be friendly, and when people are trying to be friendly with him and her, he has to reciprocate that. Okay? Even if you're an introvert, you have to do that bare minimum of being able to have that type of conversation. Right? So you have to be friendly with everybody. However, friendship, actually befriending somebody, you have to be careful about who you choose. And it's only if you choose good people that will be a means of you changing yourself. And if you keep yourself in a bad environment, and you keep yourself with bad friends who constantly put you down, wallahi, it's not going to do good for you, because the only ultimate friend that you and I should be having is Allah. All of the other friendships that we have are secondary. If Allah is compromised, those relationships will do you no benefit. And if you have good relationships that build you towards Allah, wallahi, you'll have not just a good relationship with Allah, you'll also be somebody who's very, you'll have a lot of sakina in your life. We don't realize that our bad friends are not just toxic in regards to our spirituality. They're also mentally toxic. Because there's something psychologically that happens when you talk about other people. There's also something that psychologically happens when there's always negative behavior and negative vibes around you. That does something to your mental health. But when you choose a friend that will help you get closer to Allah, wallahi, you'll have none of that. You'll have so much sakina and so much tranquility in your life, inshaAllah ta'ala. I know there are so many things that can be said. There are so many things that we can go upon. Actually, this is, okay, one last thing, because it's very important. And this is really what makes or breaks friendships. When you befriend somebody that also wants to get closer to Allah, you have to understand that in regards to affairs and matters of Islam, you have to be direct. The Prophet ﷺ says, "Al-mu'min mir'atul mu'min." The believer is the mirror of another believer. What does the mirror do? It reflects your body. But what does it do very subtly? It shows you what good qualities you have about yourself, and it also shows you what you need to fix on. But what's the beauty of a mirror? The mirror will never scream your insecurities at you. The mirror will never say, "Oh, you're such a bad person because I saw you doing this." That's not what a mirror does. The mirror literally reflects it, so you end up finding it on your own. Just like that, when you have good friendship, you have to understand that you have to be unfiltered when it comes to helping the other person progress and get closer to Allah. If that means you have to advise them and give them advice, but always do it with wisdom. I always say that in this hadith, there's also another alternative interpretation. Al-mu'min mir'atul mu'min also means you are the mirror of what you see in others. Meaning, if you're able to detect faults of other people, that is also a huge possibility that you may have the faults yourself. The person who is able, to recognize the falsehood in somebody's claim as a debater is also because he knows how to do it himself. If you're somebody that's able to understand and recognize faults, and you're always somebody who's very picky, just know that you may have those faults within yourself. So the beauty of this hadith is, as much as you try to advise your friend, try to also become in that way. Try to also be a better person. What that does is, that will make sure both of you get closer to Allah, and that will also make sure that you're not a two-faced. You're not telling somebody to do what you're not trying to do yourself. Inshallah. It's a huge, huge, huge factor and a huge principle, inshallah ta'ala. I hope all of you found benefit with this. I hope there was a lot of clarity to a lot of doubts and confusions we have. We have just a little bit of time for Q&A, so anybody who has a question, inshallah, can answer it right now. Yes?
Yes, so my question also revolves around the concept of it's not about 50-50, it's about 100% all percent for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But how would you identify a line between like the limitations of you giving for the sake of the dunya and also you giving for the sake of Allah, and how like, that reciprocated relationship doesn't wear out your relationship with Allah?
So the sister mentioned that, look, relationships are always about, and friendships, whatever type of relationship you have, it's about 100, giving it your all. But how do you do it in a way that it's for Allah and not for the dunya? Is that what it is? So here's the thing. Number one, that will depend upon the friend that you choose. If you choose a person that's sincere, no matter which state they are in their life, then automatically the ultimate factor of you being that person's friend is because both of you want to get closer to Allah. So there is no way that you will be giving it your all and not be doing it for other than Allah. So number one, it's about the friend that you choose. Number two, you always have to check your intentions. Always check your intentions. So when you're doing something for somebody, look at it. Am I doing this just because I want that person to help me later in the future? Or am I doing this for the sake of Allah? If you're not doing it for the sake of Allah, change your intention, but don't not give. So there's this other concept. Sometimes we don't do good things because we think we're not sincere. That's from Shaitan, because he's trying to make you not do that action. The actual way out of this is, give the gift to that person, look out for that person, but change your intention and ask Allah to make it solely for Him. That's number two. The main issue where your question comes up is, sometimes you give it your all, but the person doesn't reciprocate it back. Or the person doesn't have sincerity when they give it back. Those are, number two, you can look at it from two perspectives. Number one, based upon the context, that could mean that maybe you didn't choose that person wisely. Now you gotta go back to the drawing board. Should I keep this relationship with this person, or is it just better for me to cut it off? That's number one. Number two, the other perspective based upon the context that you can look at it as, is that ultimately, this person is a good person. And as long as we're friends, that person will change. In the Quran, in Surah Al-Insan, Allah talks about companions who would do good things for other people. And when they were given thanks by those people that they would help, they would literally say, "La nuridu minkum jaza'an wala shukura." We don't want you to say thank you. We don't want you to give us something back. Because the reason why I'm helping you is so that I can get closer to Allah. So ultimately, if you're giving it your all to somebody, it's because you're doing it for Allah. If that person is not giving it your all, look at it. Is them not giving it your all a harm in your relationship? Or is the person just not reciprocating it? If it becomes a harm in your relationship, in your spirituality, cut it off. But if the person is just learning, and the person is trying to get better, then stay with that person and ultimately make dua for them. So I hope that's understood. Sometimes when people don't reciprocate something, there are two problems. Number one, sometimes it's our own view that if we do something good, they have to give it their all, right? And that's not something that we should have. The other thing is, from the lens of that person is that if they're not giving it their all, is them not giving it their all actually something that's harmful in our friendship or not? So if you see that person taking advantage of you, if you see that person taking what you have and still talking bad about you to other people, that is a source of unreciprocation that is harmful to your relationship, and that's something that you should cut off. Is that understood? For the most part?
Yeah, I mean for the most part, yeah. But my question is also around like being friends with people who are not Muslim, right? And then having to identify that boundary between like giving it your all for the sake of Allah and like also keeping in mind that they're not Muslim. Like, so what constitutes as your all to them can be easily could be easily used against you, right? But like you know that they don't have that innate nature inside of them, but it's just the fact that you're friends with someone who is outwardly like a non-believer, but you just want to ensure that what you're doing is for others, so you're not for you.
Okay, so for non-Muslims, okay, so here's the thing. This ultimately comes to the fact of, can we be friends with non-Muslims? We can be friends with non-Muslims, but it ultimately comes to this thing that we talked about, being friendly versus befriending. So when you're friends with a non-Muslim, you have to understand that you are a Muslim, and you should have that fikr and that concern that I want to make everybody around me get closer to Allah and ultimately become Muslim. This is something that we should actively look for. So over here, I would say this is not about friendship. It's about number one, being friendly, and also the purpose of da'wah. So when you give it your all, try to do it with the intention of, I'm trying to guide this person. I'm trying to bring this person closer to Islam. Now, giving da'wah is a whole different ballgame, and we should have a whole different lecture on it. Because giving da'wah is not what you see in some of these countries, where basically giving da'wah becomes an intellectual debate. So when you give it your all to your non-Muslim friend, it's not that you're basically like, hey, I'm giving you this donut. Have you ever heard about Islam? Like, that's not what it is. Or like, here's a matcha latte. Now repeat after me. Ashhadu. Like, that's not what it's about. And I'll tell you this, and this will really this is a whole new perspective on calling people to Allah. I have seen more people become Muslim through soup kitchens than people who became Muslim from intellectual debates. I'm not trying to say that the intellectual debates are not important, but the way how you give da'wah to your non-Muslim friends is not start off, hey, my name's Idris, how are you? Have you ever heard about hellfire and how you're going to go to the hellfire? That's not how you give da'wah. Da'wah is giving it your all, being there for that person, and slowly but surely what ends up happening is, if you even realize it or you don't, when you do it for the sake of da'wah, your whole entire demeanor of how you give it your all changes. And that person starts to realize that ethics, morality, being a good person is whatever you're following, and they'll want to follow that from you themselves. You don't even need to say a lick about Islam. This comes from the story of Yusuf. When Yusuf alayhi salam gave the dream interpretation for those two people, right? Those people that came to him never came to him because he was Muslim or he was a prophet. When those two people had a dream and they came to Yusuf alayhi salam, what did they say? They said, "Inna naraka min al-muhsinin." Oh Yusuf, we think you can help us with this dream interpretation because we have seen you just being a good person. Not we have seen you being the ultimate intellectual debater and like this and that. No. So remember, when you befriend non-Muslims, number one, it's a mixture of being friendly but not befriending. You don't want to ultimately be affected, right? So it's befriending, and you do it for the sake of da'wah. Now remember, da'wah is not about like just increasing Muslim numbers, but it's rather you actually care for this person and you want this person to have a house next to you in Jannah. When you think about it that way, da'wah doesn't become an intellectual debate, da'wah becomes genuine care. And that's how we look at it differently. I hope I answered your question. Okay, alhamdulillah. Any other questions? Yes?
I'm kind of curious as to your advice on the opposite. So not Muslims, but people who consider work befriending, who struggle to take like that be friendly into the friendly territory.
That's good. So, okay, can you say the question again?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I was kind of confused. So what is your advice for someone who wants to take being friendly into the friendly territory, especially if they're already in the right environment and struggling to make like true companionship and not just
Like just random friends. Yeah, remember, what we call like friends nowadays is not the befriending friendship. The friendship that you and I are talking about is companionship. Like true friends that you could be in something and you can call them and they'll just come to you, even if it's like a ticket across the world or whatever. Like that's true companionship. If you want to go from befriending to true friendship, I always tell people, when you come from a good intention, always try your best first. Alright? Test the waters. See if this person is somebody that you both can work together in coming close to Allah. So if there is a person who is genuinely a good person, and I want to go from the being friendly to befriending stage, I will start doing good things in front of them. And I will start to see how they react. If I pray salah, and I always do this with people, if I want to go from the being friendly to befriending, I do two things. Number one, I always center the times we go out around salah times. So I'll always say, okay, we'll go out to eat, but let's pray salah in jama'ah, Isha salah in the masjid first. And I'll see how they react to that. If they're a little hesitant, that's fine. If they're like, oh, I don't know, right? That's fine. But if they say, I don't want to do it, then that's a sign that you don't want to go to the next stage. That's the first thing I do. Number two is, and this is something that I struggle with the most, when I go out with like the people who I am friendly with, go out to eat or something, in the car, if they play music, alright, and I will tell them, I think it's better we don't play music, let's just hang out, let's just talk. I will see how they react to that. If they don't play it for my sake and they play it any other time, that's actually a good sign. I'll work with that. But if they're like, nah bro, what's wrong with you? You're like you're some mulana, like get out of here, go preach your religion to somebody else, and they're like, go away, and they start to like cast me aside, that's the type of person who you don't want to take to the next stage. So for me personally, these are two things. What I'm saying is, give everybody a chance, because even you and I are people who are trying to get closer to Allah. We're not the ultimate best. So try, test the waters, see how people react, and that's how you can go further. Yes?
What if they're ahead of you?
Even better. Even better.
If
You,
like, how do you take it from, because they might be thinking the same thing with me, right? So then I'm kind of facing a wall, like I'm struggling to build a friendship now, because I have ambitions,
Yeah.
right? But obviously I can improve, and I'm trying to improve all over this, but let's say, like, what are some, like, practical advices for building a friendship with someone who's already been chosen by you?
been chosen. Yeah, and I've seen that like, there's like this trend on Instagram, they call it like the diamond Muslims versus like the bronze level Muslims. It's like, oh, the diamond level Muslims are talking about some huge debate in Aqidah that I can't be a part of because I'm at a lower tier. That's such a toxic understanding of friendship in Islam. Look, you have to understand that if there's somebody who is quote unquote, we can't assess people based upon their spirituality, but if you assess it and you see that they are higher than you in spirituality and friendship and all of that, so here's the thing, there's two things, okay? Number one, you and I and all of us, we have to actually, if we want good friends, we actually need to try to be better people, right? And this whole entire topic was from the perspective of we are trying to be better people, so we're trying to get better friends, right? If we're trying to be better people, then naturally people who are actually better than us should recognize that and befriend us. So if they don't end up, like, even if they see that you are trying and they don't want to befriend you, then that's a problem on them. That's not true spirituality. If the Prophet ﷺ thought like that, then he would only have 3 people or 4 people that were companions. But the characteristic of the Prophet ﷺ was he was able to take the lowest of the low and make them the highest of the high through companionship. That's why he doesn't call the Sahaba, he doesn't say followers. He says companions. Because friendship is built upon people that want to be better. You take them from the bottom and you take them to you take them from the bottom and you bring them up to the top. So you have to sometimes understand that the biggest disease amongst people that are quote unquote the diamond level Muslims is that they belittle other people. Those are people who you do not want to be friends with. Never be friends with those people, because in reality, wallahi, their spirituality will never take them close to Allah. Their spirituality is a quote unquote fake spirituality. The first 3 people that will go to Jahannam, number 1 is a person that was a alim, a scholar of the deen, but he never did it for Allah. Number 2, a person who used to fight in the path of Allah, but never did it for the right reasons and he would look down upon people. Number 3, a person who used to give generously, but he would only give generously just because people can say, oh wow, this dude used to give a lot of money before he passed away. These are fake Muslims. You know, and there's another hadith. أَلْسِنَتُهُمْ the Prophet ﷺ says, أو كما قال, أَلْسِنَتُهُمْ كَالْعَسَلِ وَقُلُوبُهُمْ قُلُوبُ الذِّئَابِ. These are quote unquote religious people who have tongues that are sweeter than honey, but their heart is more harsh than a wolf. Those are the type of people that you will end up in a more toxic state of your own mental self and your spiritual self if you befriend those type of people. So remember, those aren't the diamond level Muslims. Alright? Change that perspective. Yes? Could you speak a little bit louder, please?
Sorry. Like, how do you initiate like friendships with somebody that you feel like is ahead of this age? How to shoot your shot? How to, you know?
How to shoot your shot? Friendships, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay. With friendships, look, sometimes I tell people, like, we expect friendships and relationships to come to us, and we are afraid to initiate. Okay? Because we don't realize that those people we want to be friends with are also shy people. They don't want to initiate. One of the biggest things I'll tell you, you can be in an environment like this, but you still won't make a single friend if you don't initiate conversation. Because you don't realize that the person next to you also wants to get a good friend, but they're also very shy and they don't want to initiate the conversation. So one of the biggest things I always tell people, initiate conversations. You will never know about somebody if you don't ask about them. So like, you literally have to go up, and sometimes we think like, oh my god, I don't want to look bad in front of that person, I don't want to look needy. You literally go up to him and say, Assalamu alaikum, my name is Idris, I realize that you're a really good person, I've seen you come to these events all the time, you want to go out for a coffee? Wallahi, you will realize this is not cringe. People actually want this. People crave this, but other people are also shy to, as you said, shoot their shot in, friendship, right? To shoot their shot, that literally, when you do this, they actually get grateful. They're like, thank God I didn't have to do it. But they want it to. So I always tell people, look, you have to initiate. You can't expect goodness to come to you when you're sitting on a couch and reclining. You have to seek out for it. There will be a little bit of discomfort. Like, you'll have to go through that awkward phase. But wallahi, when you create an amazing friend, such that even the Prophet, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that the value of good friendship is that every single person can لو أنفقت ما في الأرض جميعا ما ألفت بين قلوبهم ولكن الله ألف بينهم. Allah says that a good friendship is literally like countless. There is nothing in this world that you can pay for a good friendship, because it is Allah that caused the hearts to come together. No matter how much money you give, you'll never be able to come to that friendship. If you have that friendship and it came with a little bit of awkwardness and initiation, Allah, you look back at it and you'll laugh. Like, oh my God, we're so stupid. Let's go for coffee. That's literally how it is. So there is a little bit of discomfort, but trust me, initiation is really what will help you do it. And don't think it's cringe. Other people want to do it, but they are also like shy. They don't want to shoot their shot. So when you do it, it works out for everybody. Inshallah. Do we have time for one more question? 2 minutes? Yes.
Back to one of the earlier questions when you said that you should put your friend basically in situations like around Salah and stuff like that and see how they respond. Let's say they always respond positively. Like they'll always like acknowledge when you're wrong, they'll always say like, why I want to go up, because I want to do this and that. But like you notice that when you're not there, they're maybe even getting worse and worse. And let's say this is like over like 5, 6, 7, 8 years. When do you know when it's time for, let's say like myself, like when is it the right time to be like, tell us like I can't like keep this friendship anymore, like you know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. Let me change the perspective, because we're looking at it as there's a person who actually like comes to the masjid, and whenever I tell him or her to do good things, and they always want to come to halaqas with us, but when we're not around that person ends up like, doing whatever, and they get worse and worse and worse and worse. When is it time for me to cut off? Right? That's your thing? Let me change the perspective. You and I had the ability to be their friend. Why is it that we are not caring so much that we let them fall into that state?
Because they kind of distanced themselves for like a couple years and then came back and were just progressively worse. So like let's say in my situation was a friend that was good, and then she like had an era and then she came back and was worse and worse and worse. And like when I talk to her, she's like, you're right, I agree, let's hang out, let's do all these things, but I'll notice that from her it'll never be reciprocated. Like she'll never say, let's go pray.
Yeah.
For example.
Look, remember the deciding factor behind if you want to befriend or choose a good friend is that notion of I am wrong, let's change. So for you as a friend,
Take 6 more minutes and we will look at them and come to
okay, perfect, we have 6 more minutes. So for you as a friend, you have to try your very best to capitalize on that I am wrong. So you have to make sure, as a good friend, it is your responsibility. So what I'm trying to say is, trying to change the perspective of like her being so far from the deen, but rather capitalize on the fact that she actually wants to change and give it your all to change. Remember, when I say that relationships and friendships are built for the love of Allah, ultimately, you're not doing it so that she can tell you, let's go for halaqas. You're doing it for the sake of Allah. And you know that as much as you try, so long as she has that willingness to come to the halaqas, you are getting reward for it. So the more you help the person, the more reward you're getting from Allah. So let's not take the reward from Allah aspect out of it. That is really what gives your efforts meaning. Right? So, but the deciding factor stays the same. So long as a person wants to change, you give it your all. And wallahi, you'll realize that that will be a very fruitful relationship with you. So I hope I answered that, inshallah.
I know you don't have that much time, but I guess what I'm saying is, because of how long of a period it's been, it almost feels like, is it actually true, or is it like performative? Because it won't, like the actions won't align with the words. And when do I know when it's time for me to protect myself and say, you know what, I'm just going to remove myself from this friendship for the sake of myself.
So in Islam, we have this concept of fake it till you make it. Umar radiallahu anhu used to say that if you want to cry to Allah, but you can't cry, like tears don't come, Umar radiallahu anhu would say, fake crying. Fake crying, and inshallah Allah will give you the tawfiq, and Allah will give you the guidance to actually start crying. Remember, it is not our responsibility or our judgment to decide if there's meaning behind actions and words. That's ultimately to Allah. But what we can capitalize is on the fact that they're actually, even if they don't believe in it, that they're actually we don't realize that the environment in America is such that to even find people who are willing to come to the masjid when you ask them is such a great deal. So we shouldn't not capitalize on it just because of that. So as long as the outside physical willingness is there, put all of your effort. And remember, I always tell people, never take Allah out of the spectrum. Never take Allah out of the spectrum. Always make dua for that person. You know what? Subhanallah. My teachers, when they would go and call people to Allah, and even Muslims try to bring them closer to the masjid, you know what they would do? They would have a small notebook and a pen, and they would literally keep it in their pockets. After they would talk to somebody and tell them to come to the masjid, you know what they would do? They'd say, brother, what's your name? Sister, what's your name? And they would write down the person's name in the notebook. Now you would think it's for checking up on them, ask for the phone number, brother, how are you doing? No. They did this. Guess what the cover of the notebook says? Tahajjud notebook. Every day, the same people that they would call towards Allah, they would wake up in the last third of the night and they would cry for those people. That's the difference between caring for someone and genuinely caring for that person to be better. Have you cried for your friend? I'm not putting you on the spot, it's a rhetorical question. But that's what I'm saying. Sometimes we need to cry for each other. We need to really ask Allah, because it is Allah who can change the states of the hearts of the people. I hope I answered your question, John.
Yeah, I want to hear.
Yes.
I mean, it was just adding on to that. What if they're not putting in the effort? But you're saying the words, but they're not putting the effort. At what point do you how do you pivot?
So remember, we gotta clear this up. It's not about saying I will do it, and they never do it. We said willingness. Willingness is if they actually come. Okay? If they actually come, then know that this is a person who you want to take to a befriending companionship stage. But so long as they say, I'll do it, I will do it, alright, but they don't actually do it, this is not a companionship stage. This is genuinely caring for them as a Muslim brother and actually helping them change type of stage. So you understand? So we're talking about the stage between being friendly to befriending. So that is not in the consideration. Right now we're thinking about how do I just get this person closer to Allah? And maybe later I will discuss it. But I'm telling you, don't lose hope on people. like work. Allah will make it work. Sometimes your ticket to Jannah will be in that person that you made dua for Allah for a long time. And subhanAllah, wallahi, you won't even realize that maybe the person that you made dua for and that person that you saw, okay, the person that you saw who was unwilling, maybe that person becomes close to Allah, and na'udhu billah, maybe you become far from Allah, but that person, wallahi, will remember you until the day they die, and they will remember you on the Day of Judgment. And I promise you that so long as you make a sincere effort, that person, even if that person is good or bad, will testify for you on the Day of Judgment, and ultimately it will earn the pleasure of Allah. Is that understood? I think that's a good way to close off our session, right? Alhamdulillah. Jazakallah khair for inviting me, Brother Sanjay, and all of the team over here. It's one of my favorite communities in New York City. Just because I haven't been to other communities in New York City, but even if I do, mashallah, you guys will always stay the best, just because of, like, you know, the duppattas you guys put up and the care that you guys have, mashallah. May Allah reward you all. May Allah give all of us good friends. Say Ameen. May Allah make us good people to have good friends. Say Ameen. May Allah unite all of us as friends in this gathering, in this dunya, and also in the hereafter. Say Ameen. And may Allah, just like how He united us right now, He unites us on the Day of Judgment, and then He also brings us together in Jannatul Firdaus with the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Say Ameen. Jazakumullahu khairan. May Allah bless you all. Subhanakallah wa bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaykum salam.
Jazakallah khairan, Shaykh Idris, for this very, very beautiful reminder. And may Allah make us among people who benefit from what we've learned today. Just as a quick reminder, our next week's Halaq on Friday is going to be by Mufti Abdul Wahab Wahid, and our next edition of Revive is going to be on August 16 with Shaykh Ammar Shukri as well, and both of these are going to be posted on social media soon. Now we're going to get ready for Maghrib, inshallah. And Jazakallah khairan everyone for coming out.